When my son Jimmy died at just 16, I thought grief had broken my husband. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just stared at the wall like a man with no soul. But 12 years later, after his own death, his new wife brought me a letter that changed everything. I'm Clara, and this is the truth my husband took to the grave. If you're watching this right now, please tell me where you're watching from in the comments. It gives me joy and reminds me I'm not speaking to empty walls, that my stories are reaching real hearts. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you see everything. The house was too quiet that day, just the sound of waves crashing outside my window. I sat on my old couch, the springs poking my back, staring at the phone in my hand. My son, little Jimmy, was gone. 16 years old, full of life, and now he was dead, hit by a truck on his way home from school. The police came to my door, their faces sad, telling me it was an accident. But it didn't feel like an accident to me. It felt like my heart was ripped out, and that day changed everything. Jimmy was my everything. His laugh, his messy hair, the way he'd hug me after school. Now all I had was this empty house and the sound of the ocean mocking me. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. I want to know your story too. My husband Thomas was supposed to be my rock. We'd been married 20 years, raised Jimmy together in this little beach house with its peeling paint and sandy floors. Thomas worked at the docks, fixing boats, his hands always rough from the salt and work. When Jimmy died, I cried for days, my eyes swollen, my chest hurting like someone was sitting on it. But Thomas? He didn't cry. Not one tear. He just sat in his chair, staring at the wall like nothing happened. "We have to move on," he said one night, his voice flat, cutting me deep. I thought grief broke him, made him hard, but deep down, I felt something was wrong. He wouldn't talk about Jimmy, wouldn't look at his pictures, wouldn't even say his name. I'd catch him looking at me sometimes, his eyes cold, like he blamed me. Maybe he did. Maybe he thought I should have stopped Jimmy from walking that road. The pain was too much and it started tearing us apart. The fights came fast. I'd yell about Jimmy, about how Thomas acted like he didn't care, and he'd just walk away, slamming the door. "You're making it worse," he'd say, his voice hard. I couldn't take it. The house felt like a prison. The ocean outside a reminder of happier days when Jimmy ran on the beach, collecting shells. 6 months after Jimmy died, we split up. Thomas moved out, took his clothes, his fishing gear, and left me with the house and the memories. The divorce papers came a month later, his signature quick and clean, like he couldn't wait to be done with me. I signed them, my hands shaking, feeling like I'd lost everything. My son, my husband, my family. The town talked, of course. At the market, Mrs. Grady, who knew us forever, patted my hand. "Clara, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice soft. "Thomas is cold, leaving you like that." I nodded. But the whispers hurt, people saying I drove him away, that I was too broken to keep a man. I stayed home, the sandy streets outside my window empty, the ocean waves loud in my ears. Thomas remarried a year later. Her name was Janet, a woman from up north who moved here with her fancy clothes and big smile. She was younger, maybe 40, with bright red hair and a way of talking that made everyone listen. I saw them at the grocery store once, her arm through his, laughing like nothing bad ever happened. It felt like a knife in my gut. Thomas looked at me, his eyes hard, and didn't say a word. Janet smiled, all fake, and said, "Clara, nice to see you." I walked away, my cart shaking, the pain fresh again. The town loved Janet at first. She joined the church choir, brought pies to potlucks, acted like the perfect wife. But I saw through it. She'd watch me sometimes, her smile dropping, like she knew something I didn't. I didn't trust her, but I kept my distance, living alone with my grief and the sound of the sea. 12 years passed, slow and heavy. I worked part-time at a thrift shop, sorting clothes, trying to fill the hole Jimmy left. Thomas and Janet lived in a bigger house near the beach, showing off with new cars and trips. I heard he'd gotten sick, his heart giving out, and he died last week. The funeral was quiet, just a few people, Janet crying loud like she meant it. I didn't go. I couldn't face him, not after he left me like that. 2 days after he was buried, Janet showed up at my door. It was raining, the ocean wild outside, waves slamming the shore. She stood there, her red hair wet, her face pale, holding a box. "Clara, I need to talk," she said, her voice shaky. I let her in, my heart pounding, not knowing what was coming. We sat at my kitchen table, the old wood scratched from Jimmy's homework days. Janet put the box down, her hands trembling. "It's time you know the truth," she said, looking at me with eyes that weren't fake anymore. Sam had, she stopped, opening the box, pulling out papers. A letter, something shiny. My stomach dropped. What was she talking about? I leaned forward, my breath stuck, waiting. She handed me the letter, her hands shaking worse now. "Read it," she said. I opened it, my eyes blurry with tears, and saw Thomas's handwriting. It started with Clara, and my heart stopped. He wrote about Jimmy's death, about how he blamed me, how he couldn't stand the sight of me after. But then it got worse. He said he'd taken money from our savings, the money we'd saved for Jimmy's college, and given it to Janet before he died. He'd left me with nothing on purpose because he hated me for losing our son. The shiny thing was a ring, Jimmy's high school ring, that Thomas had kept all these years, hidden from me. I looked at Janet, my hands shaking, the letter crumpling in my fist. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice breaking. She wiped her eyes, real tears this time. "I didn't know till he got sick," she said. "He made me promise to give you this after he was gone. I thought he loved me, but he was using me too. I'm sorry." "Clara, I didn't want this. I didn't know what to feel. Anger, hurt, shock. Thomas had blamed me, stolen from me, and left me to suffer while he lived with Janet. The pain was like Jimmy dying all over again, but worse, because it was Thomas's hate that did it. I stared at the ring, Jimmy's name carved in it, and felt tears fall. Janet sat there quiet, like she was waiting for me to yell. But I didn't. I just held the ring, my mind racing. Thomas was gone, but this wasn't over. I was going to find a way to make this right, to take back what he stole, and Janet was part of it. The rain kept coming, pounding the roof, the ocean roaring outside. I walked Janet to the door, the box under my arm, the letter burning in my hand. "Thanks for bringing this," I said, my voice flat. She nodded, her face sad, and left. I closed the door, leaning against it, the pain so deep I could barely breathe. The town would talk about this. I knew it. Mrs. Grady would hear. The church ladies would whisper. But I didn't care. I had the truth now. Thomas's hate, his theft, his secret, and I was going to use it. I sat on the couch, the waves loud, and held Jimmy's ring, feeling his love even after all this time. Thomas thought he broke me, but he was wrong. I was going to fight back, and Janet, whether she liked it or not, was going to help me. The ocean sounded like it was cheering, and I knew this was just the beginning. That rainy night with Janet at my door left me shaking. The letter from Thomas burning in my hand. He'd blamed me for Jimmy's death, taken our savings, and left me with nothing while he lived with Janet. Jimmy's high school ring, cold in my fingers, was all I had left of my boy, gone at 16 in that truck accident. The ocean outside my window roared like it was mad, the waves slamming the shore, matching the hurt in my chest. I sat on my couch, the springs digging in, staring at the letter. Thomas's words were cruel, saying he hated me, that losing Jimmy was my fault, that he gave our money to Janet to start over. I thought grief had broken him, but it was hate that drove him away. The pain was like a knife, twisting deeper every time I thought of Jimmy's laugh. His hugs now just a memory. The town near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, would talk about this soon, and I wasn't ready for it. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. I want to hear where you're feeling this with me. I couldn't sleep that night. The rain stopped, but the ocean kept going, loud and steady, like it was keeping me company. I read the letter again, my eyes blurry with tears. Thomas wrote about how he couldn't look at me after Jimmy died, how he felt I should have stopped him from walking that road. He said he took the savings, $50,000 we'd saved for Jimmy's college, and gave it to Janet before he got sick. He even kept Jimmy's ring, hiding it from me all those years. I held the ring tight, feeling the carved letters of his name, and cried harder. How could Thomas do this? We'd built that money together, working late shifts, skipping meals, all for Jimmy. Now it was gone, and he'd left me to suffer. I felt so alone, the house empty, the sandy floors cold under my feet. The next morning I went to the market, needing bread and milk, but the whispers hit me hard. Mrs. Grady, who'd always been kind, stopped me by the fruit stand. "Clara, I heard Thomas left you with nothing," she said, her voice soft but full of pity. "Janet's been telling people she's sorry, But folks are talking. I nodded, my throat tight. It's true, I said, keeping it short. At the checkout, 2 women were muttering. Thomas gave Janet all their money, one said. Clara's been left high and dry. My face got hot, and I hurried out, the bag heavy in my hands. The sandy streets felt like they were closing in. People staring from their porches, the ocean in the distance mocking my pain. At the thrift shop where I worked, a co-worker, Mrs. Lane, pulled me aside. I heard about the savings, she said. That's awful, Clara. Janet's acting like she didn't know. But I don't believe her. I forced a smile. But inside I was breaking. The town was turning me into a sad story, and I hated it. I stayed home after that, the ocean waves my only sound. I couldn't face the looks, the whispers. I'd sit on the porch, the salty air stinging my face, and think about Thomas. He'd been cold after Jimmy died, walking out, remarrying Janet like I never mattered. Now I knew why. He blamed me, stole from me, and used Janet to hide it. The hurt was so deep, I could barely eat. I'd look at Jimmy's old room, the posters still up, his bed unmade, and cry. I missed him so much, and Thomas's hate made it worse. But something in me was waking up. I wasn't going to let this be the end. I had to do something, had to make Thomas pay, even if he was gone. 2 days later, I called Janet. My hands shook as I dialed. The phone sticky with sweat. She answered, her voice quiet. Clara, I've been thinking about you, she said. I'm so sorry about the letter. I didn't want her sorry. Why'd you bring it? I asked, my voice hard. You knew about the money, didn't you? She paused, then sighed. Not at first, she said. Thomas told me it was his to give. I didn't know it was yours till he got sick. I should have stopped him, but I was scared. I thought he loved me. Her words sounded weak, like she was making excuses. You took my life savings, I said. You and Thomas left me with nothing. I want it back. She went quiet, then said, I don't have it all. He spent some before he died, but I can give you what's left. I felt a spark of hope, but also anger. Meet me tomorrow, I said. At the beach, noon. Bring it. She agreed, her voice shaky, and hung up. I put the phone down, my heart racing. This was my chance to start fighting back. I went to the beach the next day, the sun high, the waves crashing loud. The sand was hot under my shoes, seagulls screaming overhead. Janet was there, standing by the water, a small bag in her hand. She looked tired, her red hair messy, not the perfect wife anymore. Here's what's left, she said, handing me the bag. I opened it. Cash, maybe 20,000 and some papers. That's all? I asked, my voice sharp. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Thomas used the rest for the house, the cars. I didn't know till it was too late. I took the bag, my hands shaking, but I wasn't done. You knew he hated me, I said. You let him keep Jimmy's ring from me. She looked down, ashamed. I'm sorry, Clara, I thought it was his to keep. I stared at her, the ocean roaring behind us. You're part of this, I said. You're going to help me fix it. She nodded, scared, and I knew I had her. This wasn't just about the money. It was about making Thomas's hate hurt him. Even now, back home I counted the cash, my hands trembling. $20,000 wasn't enough, but it was a start. The papers were bank statements, showing Thomas's withdrawals, and a note in his handwriting, something about a safe deposit box at the local bank. My heart jumped. Maybe there was more money, more proof of what he did. I called the bank, acting calm, and asked about it. The teller said Thomas had a box, but it needed his wife's key. Janet. I called her again, my voice firm. Thomas had a safe deposit box, I said. You've got the key. Get it for me. She hesitated, then said, Okay, I'll meet you tomorrow. I hung up, feeling a mix of hope and anger. The ocean outside was loud, like it was pushing me forward. Thomas thought he broke me, but I was finding a way to fight. The town would talk, Mrs. Grady would hear, but I didn't care. I was going to take back what was mine, and Janet was going to help, whether she wanted to or not. I spent the night on the porch, the salty air cold, writing in my journal. I wrote about Jimmy, his smile, the way he'd run to me after school. I wrote about Thomas's hate, the money, the ring. I wrote about Janet, how she was part of this, how I'd make her face it. The pain was still there, heavy in my chest. But it was turning into something else, determination. I looked at the ocean, the waves steady, and felt Jimmy with me, like he was telling me to keep going. The safe deposit box was my next step, and I knew it could change everything. Thomas thought he won, but I was about to show him he was wrong. The town would see, and I'd make sure they knew the truth. The night after talking to Janet about the safe deposit box, I couldn't sit still. Thomas's letter, blaming me for Jimmy's death and admitting he stole our savings, kept running through my head. Jimmy's ring, tight in my hand, was my only comfort, a piece of my boy gone at 16. The ocean outside my window was wild, waves crashing like they were angry, matching the hurt in my chest. I'd gotten $20,000 back from Janet, but I knew there was more in that box. Maybe the rest of the money. Maybe proof of Thomas's hate. The town near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, was already whispering about me, about Janet, about the money Thomas left me with nothing. I was scared, but I was mad too. I had to know what was in that box, and Janet was my key. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. I want to feel your support as I dig into this mess. The next morning, the sky was gray, clouds heavy with rain, the air thick with salt. I met Janet at the bank, a small brick building by the harbor, boats rocking in the choppy water. She looked nervous, her red hair pulled back, a small key in her hand. I brought it, she said, her voice low. Let's get this over with. I nodded, my stomach twisting, and we walked inside. The teller, a young man with tired eyes, took the key and led us to a back room with metal boxes lining the walls. My heart pounded as he opened Thomas's box, the click loud in the quiet. Inside was a metal case, locked with a tiny padlock. Janet handed me a second key from her pocket. He kept this separate, she said, her hands shaking. I took it, my fingers sweaty, and unlocked the case. What I found made my breath stop. There were papers, bank statements showing Thomas moved more money after the divorce. Maybe $30,000 into an account under Janet's name. But it was the will that hit me hardest. Thomas had written it a year before he died, leaving everything, the house, the cars, the rest of our savings to Janet and nothing to me. Worse, there was a note pinned to it, his handwriting jagged. Clara doesn't deserve a dime. She killed my son with her neglect. My legs went weak and I grabbed the table. He'd blamed me all these years, twisted Jimmy's death into a lie to punish me. Janet saw my face and stepped back. I didn't know about that note, she said, her voice high. He never showed me that part. I didn't believe her. She'd lived with him, taken my money, and now she was acting innocent. You knew, I said, my voice shaking. You let him do this. She looked down, tears falling, but I didn't care. The pain was like Jimmy dying again, but with Thomas's hate stabbing me too. I took the papers, the will, the statements, stuffing them in my bag. The teller watched, confused, but didn't stop us. Outside, the rain started, hitting the sandy street hard, the ocean roaring louder. Janet followed me, her shoes splashing. Clara, wait, she said. I can help you. I don't want this money if it's yours. I turned, mad enough to yell. You took it, I said. You lived with him, knew he hated me. You're part of this. She wiped her eyes. I'll give it back, she said. All of it. Just tell me how. I stared at her, the rain soaking us, and saw a chance. Meet me tomorrow, I said. My house noon. Bring everything. Cash, papers, proof. We're fixing this. She nodded, scared, and ran to her car. I walked home, the bag heavy, my mind racing. Thomas thought he'd won, but I had the will now, and Janet was going to help me undo it. At home, I spread the papers on the kitchen table, the old wood scratched from Jimmy's homework. The will was clear. Thomas had cut me out, given it all to Janet, blaming me for Jimmy's death. The bank statements showed he'd moved money after the divorce, hiding it from me. I wrote in my journal, my hand shaking, about Jimmy's smile, Thomas's hate, the money, the ring. The pain was so deep I could barely think, but it was turning into something else, anger, a need to fight. I looked at the ocean through the window, the waves wild under the gray sky, and felt Jimmy with me, like he was pushing me to keep going. That night I heard a noise outside, footsteps on the sandy path to my house. My heart jumped, and I peeked through the curtain. A shadow moved, tall and quick, disappearing into the rain. I locked the door, my hands sweaty, wondering who it was. Janet? Someone else? Maybe Thomas had enemies, or Janet was scared I'd turn her in. I sat on the couch, the springs poking me, the ocean loud, holding Jimmy's ring like a shield. The shadow came back, closer this time, and I grabbed a kitchen knife, not sure what to do. Then it was gone, the rain hiding it. I didn't sleep, my mind spinning. Did someone know about the will? Was I in danger? The thought scared me, but it also made me mad. Thomas's hate wasn't done hurting me, but I wasn't going to let it win. The next morning I called the bank again, asking about the account Thomas opened. The teller said it was still active, money sitting there, but needed Janet's signature to touch it. I wrote it down, my plan growing. Janet showed up at noon, her car pulling up fast, the rain lighter now. She had a bag, bigger than yesterday, and looked pale. "Here's everything," she said, dumping it on the table, cash. More statements, a deed to the house. I emptied the account. "It's $28,000, the house is in my name, but I'll sign it over." I counted the money, my hands trembling, and looked at the deed. "Why now?" I asked, my voice hard. "Because I'm done," she said. "Thomas used me too. I want out of this." I didn't trust her, but I took the papers. "Sign it," I said. She did, her hand shaky, and I had the house back, my home, Jimmy's home. But the shadow from last night stuck with me. As Janet left, I saw a car down the street, parked funny, like it was watching. My heart raced. Was it about the money, the will? I locked the door, the ocean steady outside, and sat with the papers. The deed was mine, the cash was a start, but the will and that shadow meant trouble. I wrote in my journal about the money, the house, the fear, Jimmy's love. The pain was there, heavy, but it was pushing me to fight. Thomas thought he broke me, but I was finding a way to make him pay. The town would hear, Mrs. Grady would talk, and I'd make sure they knew the truth. The ocean roared like it was daring me to keep going, and I knew I would. That night after Janet gave me the house deed and $28,000, I couldn't shake the fear from that shadow outside my house. Thomas's letter, blaming me for Jimmy's death and stealing our savings, was still fresh, and Jimmy's ring felt heavy in my pocket. A reminder of my boy gone at 16. The ocean outside roared, waves slamming the shore, the rain from yesterday leaving the sandy streets slick and dark. I had the money, the house, but that shadow, someone watching me, made my stomach twist. The town near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, was already buzzing about Thomas's will and Janet's part in it. And I knew trouble was coming. I had to find out who was following me and why. And I wasn't going to let Thomas's hate win from the grave. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. I need to feel you with me as this gets scarier. I didn't sleep much sitting on the couch, the springs digging into me, listening for footsteps. The ocean was my only friend, its steady crash keeping me awake. In the morning, I peeked out the window. The sky still gray, the sand wet from the storm. The car from yesterday was gone, but I couldn't shake the feeling someone was close. I decided to check it out. I grabbed my jacket, Jimmy's ring in my pocket, and walked outside, the salty air hitting my face. The street was quiet, just a few seagulls crying, but I felt eyes on me. I walked toward the harbor, where Thomas used to work fixing boats, hoping to spot something. Halfway there, I saw a man, tall, in a dark coat, standing by a shed watching me. My heart jumped, and I turned back fast, my shoes slipping on the sand. He didn't follow, but I knew he was there for a reason. Back home, I locked the door, my hands shaking, and sat with the papers from the safe deposit box. The will, the bank statements, the note calling me neglectful. It all pointed to Thomas's hate. But the shadow meant more. I thought about Thomas's past, his late nights at the docks, the money he moved, the friends he kept. Maybe he owed someone, or someone knew about the will. I wrote in my journal, my hand trembling, about Jimmy's laugh, Thomas's lies, the shadow, the fear. The pain was deep, like losing Jimmy all over again, but it was mixing with anger. I wasn't going to hide. I called Mrs. Lane from the thrift shop, my voice low. "Have you heard anything strange about Thomas?" I asked. She paused, then said, "Folks at the docks used to talk about a guy named Roy. Said Thomas owed him money from a bad deal years ago. Never paid him back." My heart raced. Roy? Could he be the shadow? I thanked her and hung up, my mind spinning. I needed to know more. I went to the church that afternoon, where Thomas and I used to go with Jimmy. The building was old, wood creaking, the ocean visible through the windows. I asked Reverend Paul, a kind man with gray hair, about Roy. "I remember him," he said, his voice soft. "Rough guy, used to hang with Thomas at the docks. Heard he was mad about some money Thomas never paid. Haven't seen him in years." My stomach dropped. If Roy was back, He might want the money Thomas gave Janet, or worse. He might know about the will. I thanked Reverend Paul and left. The ocean waves loud outside, the sky darkening. I decided to use the church meeting that Sunday to expose Thomas's lies, to turn the town against his memory and maybe flush out Roy. The next day I called Janet, my voice hard. "Someone's following me," I said. "A man named Roy might be after Thomas's money." "Did you know about him?" She gasped, her breath shaky. "Roy?" "Thomas mentioned him once, said he was trouble. I didn't think he'd come here." I didn't trust her tears. "You're meeting me tomorrow," I said. "My house. 10 a.m. Bring anything you have on Roy or Thomas's deals." She agreed. Scared and hung up. That night, the shadow came back. I heard footsteps on the sandy path, closer than before, and saw a figure by the oak tree. I grabbed a flashlight, my heart pounding, and shone it out. The light caught a man's face, tall, scarred, eyes narrow, before he ducked away. I locked the door, my hands sweaty, the ocean roaring like a warning. Was it Roy? What did he want? The next morning, Janet arrived early, her face pale, a folder in her hands. "I found this in Thomas's desk," she said, dropping it on the table. Inside were old receipts, a note from Roy demanding $10,000, and a letter Thomas wrote to him, promising the money from the divorce deal. My blood ran cold. Thomas had planned this, taking my savings, giving it to Janet, using it to pay Roy. "You knew," I said, my voice shaking. "You helped him," Janet cried. "I didn't know till after." "He said it was his to use. I didn't care." "You're telling the church about this Sunday," I said. "We're exposing him together." She nodded, terrified, and left. I sat with the folder, the ocean steady outside, planning my move. I'd show the town Thomas's hate, his theft, and maybe draw Roy out. That afternoon I walked to the harbor. The sand wet under my feet, the boats bobbing in the rough water. I saw the man again by the docks, watching me. My heart raced, but I kept going, pretending I didn't see him. I stopped at a payphone, calling the police, my voice low. "Someone's following me," I said. "Might be dangerous." They said they'd send a car to check, but it'd take time. I hung up, the ocean loud, and hurried home. The shadow was closer now, and I felt trapped. But I wasn't giving up. Sunday was coming, and I'd use it to turn Thomas's lies into my weapon. The pain of Jimmy's death, Thomas's blame. The shadow, it was all pushing me to fight. I wrote in my journal about Roy, the church plan, Jimmy's love. The ocean roared, like it was daring me to win, and I knew I had to. That night after seeing Roy by the docks, I couldn't stop shaking. Thomas's letter, blaming me for Jimmy's death and stealing our savings, was like a weight on my chest. Jimmy's ring, warm in my pocket, was my only hold on my boy, gone at 16 in that truck accident. The ocean outside roared, waves crashing hard. The sandy streets wet from the storm. I had the house deed, $28,000 from Janet, and a plan to expose Thomas at church. But Roy's shadow made it feel dangerous. The town near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, was buzzing about the will and money, and I knew Sunday's meeting would change everything. I was scared, but the pain of Thomas's hate was pushing me to fight. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. I need to feel you with me as this gets wild. Sunday morning came, the sky gray and heavy, the ocean wild with white caps. I got ready, putting on my best dress, the blue one Jimmy liked, and stuffed the will, the bank statements, and Roy's note in my bag. Janet met me outside the church, her face pale, her red hair messy. "I don't want to do this," she said, her voice shaky, "but I owe you." I looked at her hard. "You helped Thomas steal from me," I said. "You're doing this." She nodded, scared, and we walked in. The church was full, wooden pews creaking, the smell of old hymnals and salt air mixing. Reverend Paul smiled at me. But I saw Mrs. Grady whispering to Mrs. Lane, their eyes on me. The town was waiting, and I was ready to tell them the truth. I stood up during the announcements, my hands sweaty. The ocean visible through the window. "I need to say something," I said, my voice loud but trembling. The room went quiet, all eyes on me. I pulled out the will, holding it up. "Thomas left me with nothing," I said. "He blamed me for Jimmy's death, said I neglected him, and gave our savings to Janet." Gasps filled the room. Mrs. Grady's hand over her mouth. I read the note aloud, my voice breaking. "Clara doesn't deserve a dime. She killed my son with her neglect." Tears fell, but I kept going. He stole $50,000, gave it to Janet, and hid Jimmy's ring from me. I held up the ring, the carved letters shining, and the room murmured, some crying, some angry. Janet stood, her face red. I didn't know at first, she said, her voice weak. Thomas told me it was his money. I'm sorry, Clara. People stared at her, some shaking their heads. Mrs. Lane called out, You took her life savings. Janet looked down, and I felt a spark of victory. But then the door banged open, and Roy walked in. Tall, scarred, his coat dripping rain. My heart stopped. Where's my money? He shouted, his voice rough, pointing at me. The room froze, Reverend Paul standing up. What's this about? He asked. I stepped forward, my legs shaky. Thomas owed you, I said. He used my money to pay you, didn't he? Roy's eyes narrowed. He promised $10,000, he said. Gave me half, said the rest was coming. Now he's dead, and I want it. I pulled out the note from the safe deposit box, the one Thomas wrote to Roy about the divorce deal. Here, I said, handing it to Reverend Paul. Thomas took my savings to pay you, lied to me, and blamed me for Jimmy's death. The room buzzed, people turning to Janet. She stepped back, scared. I didn't know he owed Roy, she said. He kept that from me, too. Roy glared at her. You got the house, the cars, he said. Where's my share? Janet shook her head, crying. I gave Clara the money back, she yelled. The crowd murmured louder, some standing, some angry. Reverend Paul read the note, his face hard. This is wrong, he said. Clara, you've been hurt enough. The town was turning, the pain of Thomas's lies sinking in. Roy stepped closer, his voice low. I don't care about your sob story, he said to me. I want my $5,000, or I'll take it another way. My heart pounded, but I stood tall. Thomas is gone, I said. Take it up with him. He grabbed my arm, hard, and the room gasped. Reverend Paul shouted, Let her go! Two men from the pews, Mr. Turner and Mr. Davis, rushed over, pulling Roy back. He let go, cursing, and stormed out, the door slamming. I rubbed my arm, tears falling. The pain of Jimmy's loss, and Thomas's hate mixing with fear. Janet came to me, her face wet. I'll help you, she said. I'll tell them everything. I nodded, not trusting her fully, but using her. She faced the crowd. Thomas lied to me too, she said. I'll sign over the house, the cars, anything to make this right. The room clapped, some crying, and I felt a weight lift. After the meeting, I walked home, the ocean loud, the sandy street slippery. The town was talking. Mrs. Grady hugged me outside, saying, You're stronger than he ever was. But the fear of Roy lingered. At home, I sat at the kitchen table, the old wood scratched from Jimmy's homework, and looked through the bag Janet gave me. The cash, the deed, the statements. Then I found a photo, stuck to the bottom. It was Thomas and Jimmy, years ago, laughing on the beach. But behind them was a man who looked like Roy. My heart jumped. Was Roy more than a debt collector? Did he know Jimmy? I flipped it over. Thomas's writing, Keep this safe. R knows too much. My breath caught. What did Roy know? Was there more to Jimmy's death? The ocean roared outside like a warning, and I felt trapped. The pain was deep, but it was pushing me to dig deeper. I wrote in my journal about the church. Roy's threat, the photo, Jimmy's smile. Thomas thought he broke me, but I was finding a way to break him back. That photo from Thomas's bag kept me up all night, my hands shaking as I held it. Thomas, Jimmy, and Roy laughing on the beach. Thomas's note on the back. Keep this safe. R knows too much, burned in my mind. Jimmy was gone at 16, killed by a truck, and Thomas blamed me, stole our savings, and left me with nothing. The ocean outside roared, waves crashing like they were mad. The sandy streets dark under a cloudy sky. I had the house deed, $28,000, and the town was turning against Thomas's memory after the church meeting. But that photo meant trouble. Roy, the scarred man who grabbed me, knew something about Jimmy's death, and I had to find out what. The pain of losing Jimmy, mixed with Thomas's hate, was pushing me to dig deeper. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. I need to feel you with me as this gets darker. I sat at the kitchen table, the old wood scratched from Jimmy's homework, staring at the photo. Thomas and Jimmy were smiling, years ago before the accident. But Roy's face, tall, scarred, eyes hard, stood out. I remembered the truck that hit Jimmy, a dark one, speeding down the road he walked every day. The police said it was an accident, the driver gone, but what if Roy was involved? Thomas's note hinted at a secret. And Roy's demand for money at church made me think he was hiding something. I wrote in my journal, my hand trembling, about Jimmy's laugh, Thomas's lies, the photo, the fear. The pain was like a rock in my chest, but it was turning into anger. I wasn't going to let this go. The next morning, I went to the thrift shop, needing to think. Mrs. Lane pulled me aside, her face worried. "Clara, I heard about Roy at church," she said. "Folks say he used to run with Thomas. Something about a fight years ago. Could be why he's back." My heart jumped. "Did he ever talk about Jimmy?" I asked. She shook her head. "Not that I know, but Thomas kept quiet about him after that fight." I thanked her, my mind racing, and left, the sandy street sticking to my shoes. I decided to ask Reverend Paul again. At the church, the ocean visible through the windows. He frowned when I showed him the photo. "Roy was around back then," he said. "Thomas and he had a falling out, something about a deal gone wrong. I don't know about Jimmy, but it was ugly." My stomach twisted. A deal? Was it tied to the accident? I thanked him and walked out, the waves loud, my plan forming. I called Janet that afternoon, my voice firm. "That photo, Roy's in it with Thomas and Jimmy," I said. "What do you know?" She gasped, her breath shaky. "I found something else," she said. "Last night I got a call. A man, sounded like Roy, said if I didn't give him the money, he'd hurt me. He knows about the will." My heart stopped. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, mad. "I was scared," she said. "But I'll help." "What do we do?" I thought fast. "Meet me at the harbor tomorrow, noon," I said. "We're facing Roy, bring the photo and any proof." She agreed, her voice trembling, and hung up. I sat on the porch, the salty air cold, the ocean steady. Roy was threatening us, and I had to stop him. I wrote in my journal about the call, the photo, Jimmy's face, the fear. The pain was deep, but it was pushing me to fight. The next day, I drove to the harbor. The sky dark, waves crashing against the docks. Janet was there, her hands shaking, the photo and a recorder in her bag. "He called again this morning," she said. "Said he'd meet me here." My stomach dropped. We waited, the boats rocking, seagulls crying. Then Roy appeared, tall and scarred, his coat wet from the spray. "Where's my money?" he demanded, stepping close. I held up the photo. "You were with Thomas and Jimmy," I said. "What happened that day?" He froze, his eyes narrowing. "None of your business," he said. "Thomas owed me. Give me the cash, or I'll take it." I pulled out the recorder, Janet's voice from the call playing. "He said he'd hurt me if I didn't pay." The crowd at the docks, fishermen, locals, turned to look. "You threatened her," I said loud. "Thomas used my money to pay you. Blamed me for Jimmy's death. And you know why?" Roy's face went red. "Shut up," he said, grabbing my arm. The fishermen, Mr. Turner and Mr. Davis, rushed over, pulling him off. "Let her go," Mr. Turner yelled. Roy cursed, but the crowd closed in, angry murmurs rising. Janet stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Thomas told me Roy was part of a deal," she said. "Something about a truck. I didn't know till now." The crowd gasped. Some shouting at Roy. He backed away, his eyes wild, and ran off, disappearing into the rain. I rubbed my arm, tears falling. The pain of Jimmy's loss and Thomas's hate mixing with relief. Janet looked at me, scared but firm. "I recorded the call," she said, handing me the recorder. "It's proof." I took it, my hands trembling, the ocean roaring behind us. The fisherman patted my back, Mrs. Grady from the crowd hugging me. "You're brave, Clara," she said. But the fear wasn't gone. At home, I played the recorder, Roy's voice. Rough saying, "Tell Clara to back off, or she'll regret it." My heart pounded. Then I looked at the photo again, noticing a date on the back, the day before Jimmy's accident. My breath caught. Was Roy there? Did he cause it? The ocean sounded like a warning, and I felt trapped. I wrote in my journal about the harbor. Roy's threat, the date, Jimmy's love. The pain was pushing me to find the truth, and I knew I had to. That photo with the date, the day before? Jimmy's accident wouldn't leave my head. Thomas, Jimmy, and Roy laughing on the beach. Thomas's note, "R knows too." Much, and Roy's rough voice on the recorder threatening me. It all pointed to something dark. Jimmy was gone at 16, hit by a truck, and Thomas blamed me, stole our savings, and left me with nothing. The ocean outside roared, waves slamming the shore, the sandy streets wet from the rain. I had the house deed, $28,000, and the town was turning against Thomas after the church meeting. But that date meant Roy might have caused Jimmy's death. The pain of losing Jimmy, mixed with Thomas's hate, was driving me to find the truth. I wasn't going to stop. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. I need to feel you with me as this gets heavy. I sat at the kitchen table, the old wood scratched from Jimmy's homework, staring at the photo. The date, October 10th, 12 years ago, was clear. The day before the accident. I remembered that day. Jimmy excited about a school trip. Thomas quiet at breakfast, Roy's face in the background. I went to the thrift shop, my hands shaky, and asked Mrs. Lane about it. That date, I said. Did anything happen with Thomas or Roy? She thought, then nodded. I heard Thomas and Roy were arguing at the docks that day, she said. Something about a truck job. Never thought much of it. My heart jumped. A truck job? The one that hit Jimmy? I thanked her, my mind racing, and left, the sandy street sticking to my shoes. I knew I had to dig deeper. I called the police station, my voice low. I need to see the accident report for Jimmy, I said. The officer, a kind man named Officer Reed, hesitated. It's old, Clara, he said. But I can pull it. He called back that afternoon, his voice serious. The truck was reported stolen that day, he said. No driver found, but witnesses saw a tall man near it before the hit. We never caught him, my breath caught. A tall man, Roy? I asked for a copy, and he agreed to meet me at the station. I drove there, the ocean wild on my left, waves crashing, the sky dark. The report showed skid marks, a dark truck, and a witness sketch, tall, scarred. Like Roy. My stomach twisted. Thomas and Roy planned this? To hurt me? The pain was like Jimmy dying again, but worse, with Thomas's hate behind it. I met Janet that evening, the rain starting again, the salty air stinging my face. The photo's date, I said, showing her the report. Roy might have hit Jimmy on purpose. Thomas knew. Her eyes went wide, her hands trembling. I found a letter, she said, pulling it from her bag. Thomas wrote it to me after the accident. He said, Roy took care of it. Keep quiet, or we're done. I thought it was about money, not Jimmy. I stared at her, mad and hurt. You knew and didn't tell me? I yelled. She cried, I didn't understand till now. He made me swear to stay silent. The letter was proof. Thomas hired Roy to stage the accident, blaming me to justify stealing my savings. The pain cut deep, but it turned into rage. We're telling the town, I said. Town hall tomorrow night. Bring the letter. The next day I prepared, the ocean roaring outside, the sandy streets quiet. I gathered the photo, the recorder with Roy's threat, the police report, and Janet's letter. At the town hall, the room was packed, wooden chairs creaking, the smell of salt and rain mixing. Reverend Paul, Mrs. Grady, Mrs. Lane, all there, waiting. I stood up, my voice shaky. Thomas didn't just steal from me, I said. He had Jimmy killed. Gasps filled the room, and I held up the photo. This is the day before Jimmy died. Roy, the man threatening me, was with them. I played the recorder, Roy's voice. Tell Clara to back off, and showed the report, the sketch matching him. The crowd murmured, some standing. Janet stepped forward, her face wet. I found this, she said, reading the letter aloud. Roy took care of it. Keep quiet. The room exploded, people shouting, How could he? Mrs. Grady cried, That's evil! But then the door banged open, and Roy stormed in, his coat dripping, eyes wild. You're lying, he yelled, pointing at me. Thomas paid me to scare you off, not kill. My heart pounded. You hit Jimmy, I shouted. He grabbed my arm hard, and the crowd gasped. Officer Reed, there with 2 others, rushed in. Let her go, Roy, he said, pulling him back. Roy struggled, cursing. Thomas said it was an accident gone wrong. The room went silent, then roared with anger. Officer Reed cuffed him, leading him out. We'll investigate, he said to me. I rubbed my arm, tears falling. The pain of Jimmy's death, and Thomas's plan hitting hard. Janet came to me, her voice low. I'm sorry, Clara, she said. Thomas used me to cover it. I'll testify. I nodded, not trusting her fully, but using her. The town surrounded me, Mrs. Lane hugging me. You're a fighter, she said. But the fear lingered. At home, I sat with the papers, the ocean steady, and found a note in the letter, Thomas's writing. If Roy talks, check the boat shed. My breath caught. The boat shed at the harbor? More secrets? The pain pushed me to keep going, and I knew I had to find out. I wrote in my journal about the town hall. Roy's arrest, the note, Jimmy's love. Thomas thought he broke me, but I was close to breaking him back. That note from Thomas, "If Roy talks, check the boat shed," kept me awake, my heart pounding. Jimmy was gone at 16, killed in a truck accident Thomas and Roy staged, blaming me and stealing our savings. The ocean outside roared the night before, waves crashing, but this morning it was calm. The sky clear, the sandy streets dry. I had the house deed, $28,000, the town's support after the town hall, and Roy in jail, but the boat shed held the last piece. The pain of Jimmy's death, mixed with Thomas's hate, had driven me this far, and I was going to finish it. The town near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, was waiting, and I was ready to take back my life. I got up early, the sun just peeking over the ocean, and grabbed Jimmy's ring from my pocket. It felt warm, like he was with me. I took the photo, the recorder with Roy's threat, and Janet's letter, stuffing them in a bag. The boat shed at the harbor was where Thomas worked, a rickety place full of nets and old tools. I drove there, the salty air filling my car, the waves gentle now. Janet met me, her face pale but determined. "I'm scared," she said, "but I'll help." I nodded, not trusting her fully, but needing her. We walked in, the wooden floor creaking, the smell of fish and rust strong. I looked around, my hands shaking, and found a locked box under a bench. Thomas's initials carved on it. Janet handed me a key from her bag. "Found it with his things," she said. I unlocked it, my breath stuck, and inside was a tape recorder, payment records, and a letter. The tape played Thomas's voice, rough and low. "Roy, it's done. The truck hit him. Blame Clara, take her money, and we're clear." My legs went weak, tears falling. He'd planned it, hired Roy to stage the accident, used Jimmy's death to punish me, and stole everything. The records showed $10,000 paid to Roy. My savings funneled through Janet. The letter to Roy confirmed it. "Keep quiet, or I'll ruin you." The pain hit like a wave. Jimmy's loss and Thomas's betrayal crashing together, but it turned into rage. "This is it," I said to Janet. "We're showing the town." We planned a community event that afternoon at the beach. The sand warm, the ocean sparkling. The town came, Reverend Paul, Mrs. Grady, Mrs. Lane, fishermen, everyone. I stood by the water, the crowd quiet, and held up the tape. "Thomas killed Jimmy," I said, my voice breaking. "He paid Roy to stage the accident, blamed me, and stole my savings." Gasps filled the air, and I played the tape. Thomas's voice clear. "The truck hit him. Blame Clara." The crowd murmured, some crying, some angry. I showed the records, the letter, the photo with the date. "He took my son, my money, my life," I said. "But I'm taking it back." Janet stepped up, her voice shaky. "I didn't know at first," she said. "Thomas used me to hide it. I'm giving Clara the house, the cars, everything." She signed papers right there, handing me the deeds. The crowd clapping. Mrs. Grady hugged me, tears in her eyes. "You're a hero, Clara," she said. But then Officer Reed walked up, his face serious. "Roy confessed," he said. "Thomas paid him to scare Jimmy off the road, but it went wrong. We're charging Roy, and Thomas's estate is yours by law." My heart lifted, the pain easing. Thomas's plan was undone, his hate exposed. We held a small ceremony for Jimmy, the ocean gentle, the sun setting. I scattered his favorite shells in the water, crying, but feeling him with me. The town brought food, fried fish, cornbread, sweet tea, and talked. The whispers now about my strength. Janet stayed, helping, and I saw she was sorry. "I'll testify," she said, "to clear your name." I nodded. The house and cars mine again, the money reclaimed. At home I sat on the porch. The waves soft, and wrote in my journal about Jimmy's smile, Thomas's downfall, the town's love. The pain was still there, but it was healing, replaced by peace. My beloved friends, you made it to the end. Where are you watching from? Drop your city below. I read every comment. Has someone betrayed you like this? Share your story. I want to hear your heart. Like if you're cheering for me. And subscribe to AuntyMaeDiary for more tales of pain turned to power. Let's keep this going. Tell your friends.